Welcome to Monza for the second of two rounds of the GT2 European Series. Here it's the fifth round of the championship, and it's at Monza. We started at Paul Ricard, went to Misano, Spa-Francorchamps, Hockenheim, and we've got one further double-header at Barcelona in the middle of October. But we had a cracking race yesterday with an incident from the front of the field all the way down to the back, and the championship leading car had a little bit of a trip-up. That was the SRO Motorsports Centrum KTM of Martin Koch and Reinhard Koffler, and to the fore came Leonardo Guarini and Carlo Tamborini, taking the first win for a Maserati in any SRO event at Monza since the series began. So the field is set, the cars coming around, the fans in the grandstand, and they'll be forming up on the grid. The first few cars already coming into a location at the middle of the circuit. Leonardo Guarini, Carlo Tamborini, their victory yesterday, which was their 4th of the championship, has closed them up. But if the number 812 KTM wins, then the Maserati has to be fifth place or higher to keep the championship going to those final two races at Barcelona in October. Air temperature continues to rise, 19.5 degrees. Humidity falling, thank goodness, down to 71%. And track temperature, 23 degrees. Yesterday we saw that as high as 41 as the sun burnt the cloud away. But right now, a very comfortable early autumnal day here at Monza. These special cars with their great big aerodynamic addenda, they look mean, they are mean, they've got plenty of horsepower to play with. And we have two classes of driving crews. We've got the Pro-Am crews and the Am crews. And a couple of the Am crews, notably Philippe Pret, the number 2 LP Racing Maserati. And yesterday's pole starter, Alexandre Leroy, in another Maserati. His entered from TFT Racing. They will be starting and doing the entirety of the race on their own. They'll be doing the hard yards, the hard work. Track conditions yesterday were different. They were warmer because their event was later in the day. But right here, right now, we've got the championship leaders on pole position. Reinhard Koffler will take the start today in the green and black KTM from SRO Motorsports Centrum, and he's going to see how he goes. Certainly his teammate yesterday, Martin Koch, when he got out of the car, was limping a little bit. I think he had a bit of leg cramp, and certainly when you're braking as heavily as you have to around the circuit at Monza. Much more heavy braking, of course, since they put the chicanes in. That was a very long time ago. But if you weren't with us yesterday, you won't know that the circuit has been resurfaced over the winter, and the teams have so much more grip to play with, but they then had to work out how to make their cars work the best. So let's go down to the grid. And we're going to hear from Martin Koch. He's down the grid. His car's starting on pole, and he's with Gemma Scott. Let's hear what he's thinking.
Martin, good to see you. Still a little bit sore after yesterday.
Oh yeah, definitely do. Still a lot of pain in my right leg. Very unfortunate what happened, but it is what it is, right? So at least there was almost no pain during the race yesterday. It didn't hinder me at all. So
absolutely, and of course, pole position here for this next race.
It's amazing. So Reini is just like, I mean, hammer time for Reini, right? He pushed out a lap time. It's like incredible. So yeah, it's awesome to be on pole. Let's see what we can achieve today.
As a driver, how does it feel racing around the Temple of Speed?
Oh, Monza is one of the great tracks. You know, I like the old tracks, like the ones that you can hurt yourself a bit. Yeah, I know some people don't like it maybe, but I do very much so. And to be in Monza is like, yeah, it's proper racing, isn't it? High speed.
It really is. We'll get out there and enjoy it. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you.
Right, so they ended up not scoring a lot of points yesterday, but that pole position, not only is it important by putting them at the front of the grid, but their championship rivals, the number 1 crew, are all the way back in 10th place. We're looking at the car second on the grid. Philippe Chatelet will take the second stint, but the yellow, black and red helmet mean it can be only one driver, an absolute star for Audi across the years. Pierre Caffer, entered by LP Racing, and the number 18 entry. We'll see how that fares. That's one of the Pro-Am crews. And, of course, we've got the Am crews as well. And the best of those actually start on, in fact, it's an all-Am second row of the grid with Philippe Pret, who's going to be driving solo in the number 2 LP Racing Maserati. And alongside the pole sitter from yesterday. We're looking down at the middle order cars. In fact, it's row 3 and row 4 we're looking at there with that mixture of Mercedes, Maseratis, and the KTM Crossbow. The KTM Crossbow is such a spectacular car with the lid that hinges up to admit the drivers into the cockpit. No doors as such. Look, here's yesterday's pole starter, Alexandre Leroy, and he was racing solo. He will again today. And let's go down to the grid, because Philippe Chatelet will be doing the second stint in the car that starts on the outside of the front row.
Philippe, good to see the car down here on the front row, but a problem yesterday which caused you not to finish.
Yes, we have a problem yesterday with an engine failure. So I have a good pace during the first part of the race, and progressively I lose the power. So they decide to stop me for save the engine and take part for the second race.
Well, hopefully it's all back on form for today. You feeling confident?
Yes, really confident with the car, because the team make a great job, and my teammate is just perfect. So he took the depart, and I continue after for the second stint. I push, and I try to do my best. Only thing it's take pleasure, and we will see.
Bon courage. Merci.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's Philippe Chatelet. His car will be starting on the outside the front row with Pierre Caffer on board. Number 80 car, we saw that going into the barriers down at the first corner. That was the Resoon More Than Racing KTM crossbow of Thomas Anderson and Simon Birch. That is due to start at the back of the pack. It's a new car, so that's all fair. There it is, bringing up the rear of the grid. We're missing the number 88 LP Racing Audi, because unfortunately engine problems mean that Gianluca Giorgi and Stefan Racina will not be getting a start here. And 888 is missing too, unfortunately. That's the NM Racing team Mercedes, so they won't be coming out to play. More's the pity, but yesterday we had some cracking racing, not just between the classes, but at the very sharp end of the grid. And it certainly chopped and changed with initially that 812 KTM crossbow with Martin Koch leading the way. Then he was picked off by 1, 2, 3 Maseratis as they all worked to the front, hunting as a pack. And we're going to see if the same story can happen again today. But be sure that Pierre Caffer, starting from the outside of the front row, will be looking to spoil their party to get in and see what he can manage. There's the number 89 RTR Projects car. Jan Krabek and Slovakian racer Viktor Mraz will be racing that. And Jan will be starting today. He was a winner here 12 months ago in the AM class in the opening of the 2 races and the second of the 2 races. So he's been going great guns at the Temple of Speed across the years. Jan, a driver from Czechia, the Czech Republic. These cars look great. They sound absolutely fantastic in the GT2 European Series. And they certainly look the part. Great big rear wings. And the Maserati GT2, special to this championship. That's certainly been drawing a lot of interest, and you can be sure there'll be more of those on the grid next year. Great looking car, but it's the KTM crossbow. It's been around a few years longer in the GT2 format, and that is the one on pole. Reinhard Koffler, fantastic job from him. That's the championship leading the car, so it's starting exactly the right sort of place it needs to be. But we have got a race ahead of us, and it's entirely unpredictable. We had a few mechanical problems. We had a few collisions down into the first chicane. That doesn't make it unusual, but the fans in the grandstand, the sun is now starting to burn through, really looking to enjoy the day's action, and it's thick and fast. We've got this GT2 race followed by a GT4 race, a McLaren Trophy race, and then it's GT3 time, the 3-hour race for the 4th round of the GT World Challenge Endurance Series. A lot of the drivers who competed that, people like Benjamin Ricci, are now choosing to race in GT2. And he's in one of the Mercedes, and that is starting mid-order, starting 5th on the grid. Benjamin and Mauro Ricci sharing that blue and white Charger. That's the AMG GT2 model. This is Carlo Tamborini. He is starting the number 1 LP Racing Maserati, but some way down the order. Not where you expect to be, but that will come forward. In terms of pace, he and Leonardo Guarini, they came through to take victory yesterday, but today they're starting down in 10th place. But such is the pace of the pairing, they will work their full way forward. They've already had 4 wins in the championship. They're second, and they need to finish 5th or higher to keep the title race going to the final round. That is quite a clear task for the driver on board at the start, and we'll see how far Carlo Tamborini can advance before handing over to Leonardo Guarini. So waiting for the race to start, the clock to start, and see how this one is going to shake out. But if yesterday's race is to be matched, it's going to be a crack. A car 53, another Mercedes from a Codis ASP team, and that was Pascal Guibon who should be starting, and Christophe Bourret to finish. But all eyes for the drivers on the run down to that first corner. Lamborghini pace car sets off, and the car's waiting for the signal. The drivers get the signal. The green flag waved from the little balcony sticking out above the pit wall. 1, 2, 3, waiting for all cars to get going. All 12 cars looking to get running. A couple of cars, we said, failing to start because of engine issues and other factors, including the NM Racing Team Mercedes. That's a shame for Stéphane Perrin and Jörg Wiebahn, and also the 88 LP Racing Pro-Am class Audi. Let's take a look at the grid, and it's Reinhard Koffler at pole, Pierre Caffer on the outside of the front row in his Audi. Then the two Maseratis being driven solo by Philippe Pret and Alexandre Leroy. Then Benjamin Ricci, his Acodis Mercedes, and Jan Krabek, the RTR Projects KTM. Row number 4, it's Pascal Gibbon who will start, and alongside him at KTM with Klaus Angerhofer at the wheel, ahead of Laura Kreihammer, who starts ninth in the True Racing KTM, Carlo Tamborini, who's short of charge in the Maserati number 1, and then Jean-Luc Bobelic at Acodis ASP, and Simon Birch. That's a brand new car, because yesterday's was rather shorter than it started the race after a collision down into the first chicane. So heat in the tyres, and the message on board. This should be exciting on-board camera work, because Carlo Tamborini starting 10th. He's got the pace to work his way up the order, but you have to be careful. You have to choose your moments in which to make a attempted passing manoeuvre. 3 chicanes around the circuit, but also that wonderful long drag out of Parabolica and all the way down the start-finish straight, and that is where you can use the toe to good effect. So the whole field coming through, and Reinhard Koffler just leading the championship by some margin with his teammate Martin Koch. They're sitting on a very tidy advantage going into this round and could almost put it in the bag, but they do need Carlo Tamborini and Leonardo Guarini to finish below 6th place. And if they do that, then that will be their championship, with the final 2 races at Barcelona still to run. But right now, for Reinhard Koffler, starting on pole position, his focus will be on just getting down into that first corner ahead. He knows the Maseratis around him have got pace. He also knows the driver on the outside of the front row, Pierre Caffer, can weave magic. This is in the AM class, and it's Philippe Pret leading by just 3 points from Jean-Luc Bobelic, but Bobelic's car starting further back. Gilles Vannelet, of course, sharing with Jean-Luc Bobelic. Alexandre Leroy may be able to vault up the championship. Just 7 points between the top 3 crews. But for Leroy and Pret, they know their destiny is in their own hands. They don't have teammates. They're driving the entirety of the race in solo. They'll all come in to make their pit stops. The drivers have to get out of the cars if they're driving solo and then get back in all over again. In fact, a good chance to get rid of any potential build-up of lactic acid that can lead to cramp. Not a driver's friend when it comes to a circuit like this, with the heavy braking into the chicanes. Look out for this Maserati. Looks fantastic in blue with the yellow and white flashes on it. This is number 1. This is the championship challenging car, down in 10th after qualifying not going their way, but their championship rival, the class leader, the championship leader, is starting on pole position. That's Reinhard Koffler, the 812 KTM. Right, this is the view from 10th on the grid. Not yet on the grid. This is the run to Parabolica, the long, long right-hander that feeds the cars onto the start-finish straight. And of course, they're going to wait for that safety car, the pace car, to move off the circuit, and then we'll get the start coming up. Who's it going to be? Is that KTM going to get into the lead and stay in the lead today, or will it be hunted down? Will Pierre Caffer, with all his years of works experience as an Audi driver, be able to get past and then perhaps lead all the way to the pit stops and hand to his teammate Philippe Chatelet? We heard from Philippe down on the grid. Right, the pace starting to pick up, the driver's heartbeat, no doubt, gaining a few more beats per minute round the final corner. Position the cars. This will be the slowest they come round here until they come back at the end of the race. It's a KTM on the front row alongside an Audi, a pair of Maseratis in behind, then a Mercedes and another KTM on row 3. And look out for that number 1 Maserati, number 1, starting down in 10th place. But it's all eyes for these drivers on the lights on the starting gantry. Pierre Caffer getting his nose in front, dropping in behind. Reinhard Koffler in pole position. Is it going to be a quick throw or a long throw? The pace car pulls away, and 50 minutes of racing is ahead of us, but not yet, not yet. Wait for the lights to go green. The field in 2x2 formation, 6 rows. Lights, we need that Audi to get alongside the KTM up on the front row, getting a quite quick throw when they got them there, and the first 3 rows really bunching up, but a good start by Reinhard Koffler. He's clear, and in fact Philippe Pret in the number 2 Maserati looks like he's going to get up the inside of Pierre Caffer. Caffer will brake late in the Audi. Yep, his years of experience put him up back into second place. First 4 cars running in their grid positions. A bit of a shortcut there from Alexandre Leroy. Was a contact in the second part of that first chicane. He's got up into 3rd place ahead of Philippe Pret, behind a bit of sorting out, but I think it's all fair and square, and already looking as though it's gained 4 positions. Is Carlo Tamborini's, looks as though the number 1 Maseratis have got up either to 6th or 7th. If it's up to 6th, that's 4 places gained. But pole starter Reinhard Koffler into the first and second chicanes. Oh, and there, little caught out there, unfortunately, for one of the Acodis ASP Mercedes, and that shortcut will mean places have to be handed back. after the second chicane, so I think we'll see that one backing off a little bit and the other cars being sweeping through. But that has also meant the first 6 cars have got clear. So that was really unfortunate for the number 61 Mercedes there. Benjamin Ricci at the wheel. He was really pushing to keep up with the first 4, just a little bit of a slip up at the second chicane. Brilliant shot under the old circuit, but about a 4-5 car length lead for our pole starter, Reinhard Koffler. We saw this yesterday, a really good getaway at the start of the race, but then those Maseratis came hunting. Today, there is a different flavour though. He's being hunted down by the Audi of Pierre Caffer. There it is, the black and red livery car in the background of the shot. In behind him, we've got Philippe Pret. Let's take a look at the start again. Coming down to the first chicane, there is always a sort out. Reinhard Koffler into the lead, holding the lead. Pierre Caffer into second. It's what happened around 5th and 6th places. Alexandre Leroy ran off the track, came over right into the path of Benjamin Ricci. No contact though, that was all good and clean. It was what then happened at the second chicane that had Benjamin Ricci losing a lot of ground. But at the end of the opening, at 1.4 seconds, that's a good margin for Reinhard Koffler over second place Pierre Caffer. Caffer being challenged by the number 2 Maserati of Philippe Pret and then Alexandre Leroy. Oh dear, and there is Pierre Caffer getting it wrong, braking too late. Perhaps the pressure from Philippe Pret just put the German driver off. He took a very minor shortcut, maybe allowed to get away with that, but I'll keep an eye on the warning screens. And here comes Carlo Tamborini, right onto the tail of Alexandre Leroy. He's still in 5th place. Will he be 4th by the time they get up to the second chicane? He's up the inside, into 4th place he goes. 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th in shot. A little bit further back, you've got Benjamin Ricci. Maybe no message saying he's got to hand it back, but definitely a note has been taken that the second corner, the second part of the first chicane had been cut by Pierre Caffer. Caffer settled back down. There he is in 2nd place. 3rd place, Philippe Pret. Now up to 4th place, really on a charge, Carlo Tamborini. Remember, he has to finish 5th or higher. He started way down in 10th position. He's up to 4th, but quite simply, to give it, it's not about keeping the championship open, it's about trying to win this race to mean when they go to Barcelona that he and his teammate Leonardo Guarini, already 4 wins to good this year, can take a tilt at taking the title. Not just keeping the title race open, taking the title. That is the job in his hands. And there you can see the yellow and blue Maserati just coming out of the Ascari chicane in 4th place. But Reinhard Koffler making his escape at the front of the field. Right, no gain for Philippe. For Pierre Caffer, I beg your pardon, in 2nd place for cutting the second part of the first chicane. So there's no potential penalty. He didn't gain a position, didn't gain any time in particular, so he can carry on in 2nd place. And what he has done, he's made a break in 2nd place. Philippe Pret is now, his mirrors are full of the chasing, hunting Carlo Tamborini. Across the start-finish line, 1.4 seconds has become 2.1 seconds for our race there in terms of advantage over Pierre Caffer. So Reinhard Koffler leading way. Is this about to be a move up the inside? Most certainly it is. Carlo Tamborini passing the sister car. He's in the number 1 Maserati, and the number 2 Maserati he just passed, and Philippe Pret is also run by LP Racing, so it'd be rather crazy if they got together. But Philippe Pret, although he's gone back to 4th place, still leading the AM class. Next car in class is Alexandre Leroy, just a few seconds further back in 5th overall. These cars look great, they sound even better. This is the second chicane, neat, tidy. A lot of cars in all the classes, all the series coming here have been dipping a wheel into the gravel on the outside, which then compromises you. It's a very short run to the next corner. Lesmo, famously difficult pair of corners. The second one used to be much faster than it is now. The line has changed. The driver's adapting. This is Lesmo 2. But what we have seen is a lot of drivers hooking their wheels into that enormous gravel track, bringing it back on the surface. And when you're coming around the second Lesmo, you really need as much grip as you could possibly have. So if there's gravel on the track, that is not your friend. Another car that's making good progress, the red and white KTM. Here it is, car number 80, brand new car. That was given a thump yesterday and was, as I said, a fair bit shorter than it should have, than it left the pit lane when it was recovered down at that first chicane, but certainly a very tidy run from Simon Birk. His next target is Benjamin Ricci, so he wants to get up to 6th place. What we're seeing now, having moved ahead of Philippe Pret, though, up into 3rd place from 4th, is that number 1 Carlo Tamborini driven Maserati, the highest place of the Maseratis at the moment. His target is right across the nose of his car, and that is Pierre Caffer in the LP Racing, well, same team, LP Racing Audi. Now, this is a view of Carlo Tamborini showing us the full details of Caffer's Audi. Easily passed, and Pierre didn't make it too difficult. He knows they're in the same team. He knows the sister car, the Maserati in this case, of Carlo Tamborini, needs to go off after the pace setter, the race leader, which is Reinhard Koffler. 3 seconds clear at the moment. Now he's clear into second place. How quickly can Carlo Tamborini close the gap? But Koffler, the Austrian racer, driving beautifully. Again, you can see the angle of the cars changing as they come out of the exit of Biasone. Corner used to be known as Curva Grande before they put the chicanes in and get the braking right to get the entry speed in check when they arrive at that second chicane. Neat and tidy. Benjamin Ricci falling back a little bit now. Car 89, that's Jan Krebeck, as I said, racing for RTR Projects. In his KTM, he took 2 wins in the AM class here in the visit last year, earlier in the season, that was last year, but now in this autumnal weather, conditions absolutely perfect for the drivers. Air temperature just about 20 degrees, track temperature creeping up to 28. Conditions are good, fabulous speed for the cars under the old circuit. The old bank circuit looks like we've got a potential change. No, not quite happening between those two KTMs. Klaus Angerhofer at the rear of the field, just behind. In fact, Jan Krabic has just gained a position, fighting very hard with Laura Kreihammer as well. Down the long run from the Ascari chicane to the Parabolica. Certainly lots of pressure for Pascal Guibon in that Mercedes, and that is the rest of the pack. All the cars actually almost nose-to-tail formation. The largest gap in the entire field up to this point has been between first and second. 3.2 seconds, nearly 3.3 seconds between Reinhard Koffler and Carlo Tamborini. Then come third, fourth, fifth. We're looking down to sixth place is now Simon Birch, that red and white number 80 KTM, down into the first chicane. Little bit of a gap, and then you get Pascal Guibon and all the KTMs down at the back. Are we going to have an overtaking manoeuvre or an accident down to the first corner? Unfortunately, it's the latter. And Klaus Angerhofer came from too far back and clattered across the nose of Jan Krabeck there. I have a little sympathy for Krabeck. He needed to turn in, and suddenly there was a flash of colour, and that number 16 entry from True Racing clattered across his path. Didn't see if there was any damage, but might have been superficial. Let's not guess. Simon Birch gained a position. He's just moved up into fifth place ahead of Benjamin Ricci, and now we do have a car parked at the side of the circuit, and it's the one that was given a clatter, unfortunately, that appears to have parked up. And that will be Jan Krabeck. 2 AM class wins last year, minding his own business here, and I think an apology might have to be issued to soothe his brow after the race. Great run from the young Danish racer Simon Birch. Here he is, that red and white, brand new Mordan Racing KTM. Yesterday caught out at the first chicane. That's where we just had trouble. One of the drivers just in front of him has kicked up the dust on the exit of the Ascari chicane, but his next target is fourth place, and it's the Philippe Pret driven Maserati. And you get the gap back to the best of the rest, which remains the number 53 Mercedes from Acodis ASP. It's still Pascal Guibon. He'll hand over to Christophe Bourret. Now let's take a look at what happened coming down into that first chicane. Oh, that's braking very wrongly indeed. Was really unfortunate there. Klaus Angerhofer clearly got over-ambitious, maybe looking at the battle up in front, and came cutting through. Jan Krabeck minding his own business, and was given a thump that has taken him out of the race. This time it's the same gaggle of cars, -2. That's Pascal Guibon, Laura Kreihammer and Jean-Luc Bobelic turning in. But our race leader, nearly 3.7 seconds clear. So Carlo Tamborini's moved up to second place. There he is in the background. He's done all the passing from 10th up to second. But now he's in clear air. He can't do anything about 8:12 because right now we just had the fastest lap of the race set by the driver on board. That's Reinhard Koffler. He qualified on pole position. He's doing what he can, and all along in the pits, his teammate will be hopping up and down. That's Martin Koch. We heard from him down on the grid because he's going to be getting excited. Every little bit more margin will help them extend their championship lead. But as long as that number 1 Maserati can stay in second place, at least the title battle won't be sorted here. We've still got 1 round to run, but Monza could be a very happy event for the 812 crew, but it's very unlikely they are going to suddenly lose the challenge from behind. So the battle will go to the final round. Now, this is quite a battle. This is the battle over fourth place. We go Koffler, Tamborini, Pierre Caffer in that Audi, just going out of the bottom of the shot. And then APM on the nose of his red, blue and white Maserati. Philippe Pret being hunted down, hunted all the time, because here comes Simon Birch right up from 12th on the grid. Brand new car, decalled, got ready for today after yesterday's one was shortened and bent. with that contact down at the first chicane. And this time around, there's a bit of a response from Philippe Pret. He's opened out a bit of a margin. When I say a bit of a margin, it's under a second, but it was a better lap from the Monegasque racer. There he is, 4th place, coming down to the first corner. Tucked in behind, Simon Burke, not wanting to risk it too much.
Race control, steward's decision, drive-through penalty for car 16 for causing a collision. Drive-through penalty for car 16 for causing a collision.
Well, that's crystal clear. So for Klaus Angerhoff, I don't think he can have too much of a complaint about that one. He came from quite a few car lengths back, and clearly there was absolutely nothing Jan Krabik can do. He was already turning in, but you want to brake as late as you possibly can down into the first chicane, and any of the chicanes would do for Simon Burke, because he's now really flashing the lights. He feels he's quicker than Philippe Pret. He's got to find his way back, because Philippe is not likely to leave the door open, but you know how drivers are. They like to flash the lights. Come on, I'm coming through. Pay attention, but Philippe Pret is, you know, at certain points, his Maserati has a bit more punch through the faster corners. You can find, and the tight corners too, actually. The KTM a little bit more wieldy. Right, is he going to make a manoeuvre up into the Ascari chicane? No, he isn't. Is he going to try and get a bit of a toe down to Parabolica? He's got to get through the Ascari chicane, doing that just now. Can he get a better toe on the drag and get a drag down to this next corner, Parabolica, just off the bottom of our screens? It's a right-hander, but if you get a good exit from there, a slipstream from arrival, maybe, just maybe, down the start-finish straight, you can get enough of a toe to burst out under braking for the first chicane. But actually, going through the corner, the Maserati looks to have a little bit more poise. In the slower corner is where the KTM seems to have a bit of an advantage. But can Simon Burke, in the background of our shot, get close enough to the tail of Philippe Pret? It's a long, long straight, and if you just start getting a toe, you suddenly edge your bit closer. But no, coming down to the first chicane, Pret has got enough in the bag. Right, these drivers going to brake a little too late. Philippe Pret being incredibly cautious, doing all he requires to do. Pedal to the metal, he accelerates away, and the Maserati picks up a little bit more punch out of some of the corners, certainly the slower ones, but then the long sweep to the right. Is there going to be a move into the second chicane? No, I think it was such a tidy exit from Philippe Pret in that number 2 Maserati from LP Racing that there is absolutely nothing that at this point Simon Burke can do. Through the chicane, you can see the KTM is a little more wieldy and certainly gained a little bit of a margin. Oh, overtaking into the first Lesmos. Well, that would be ambitious, so it could also be calamitous. So he tucks back in. He's going to have to wait. He's going to have to try and get a better exit to this next corner, the Lesmo 2. You want to run wide, but not too wide. But again, exit from corner, good, very good from Philippe Pret. Will he be enjoying this battle? It's always better to be the hunter than the hunted than the hunter, but he's not putting a wheel wrong so far. And I'm just starting to sense that Benjamin Ricci is beginning to match their pace, may start to close in. And don't forget, in the heat of this battle, the tar life is taking a little bit of a thumping. The 3 cars up ahead, able to run in clear air on their own. The gap between Reinhard Koffler leading the race and Carlo Tamborini, KTM ahead of Maserati, is 3.3 seconds. It appears to have stabilised. 2.5 seconds back to Pierre Caffer, who made just that one mistake at the second chicane in the LP Racing Audi, but still sitting out front. Right, Koffler crosses the line. The gap's come down. First to seconds come down by 1/3 of a second. It's 2.9 seconds now. Better lap from the Carlo Tamborini. Here he comes into the first chicane, that number 1 Maserati. Fairly equal gap back to Pierre Caffer. Then here is this group still fighting over 4th place. Philippe Pret still prevailing. Simon Burke in 5th, bouncing over the curbs on the first part of the first chicane. Can he get the better exit this time around? And therefore, if he does that, can he get a toe? Yeah, much better exit. Maybe he'll be in a position to make a move into the second chicane. Pascal Guibon in the world of Mercedes, being followed by Jean-Luc Bobelic. So the best placed Mercedes in the GT2 today is in 8th position. Here comes the move, here comes the move. Thought it was going to happen, a better exit from the first chicane, and Philippe Pret didn't make it too hard. He realised that the drag had been used, the toe had been used, and after many laps of driving, the driver who started way down the order in 12th on the grid is now up to 4th. First car to have made a pit stop. Well, it was a drive-through penalty, of course. It was the number 16 Klaus Angerhofer. Driven cars just exited from the pit lane. Pit window not yet open. Car 61 has just been noted. That's Benjamin Ricci for cutting a chicane. That was at the exit of the first chicane. Just exactly as we saw very early in the race from Pierre Caffer. Caffer has settled down in third place. He's in fact just going out of the top of the shot. There's the black and red Audi turning into Parabolica. Now up into fourth place. Let's see if Simon Burke in the red and white KTM can start dropping off his tail Philippe Pret. And the last 2 laps have been good ones for the car in sixth place, Benjamin Ricci. There we are, the blue and white Mercedes run by Codis ASP. Mauro Ricci, Father Ricci, waiting to take it over when the pit window opens. But definitely the last 2 laps have been good ones for the Mercedes driver. Philippe Pret passed but not being dropped. He's pushing Simon Burke to brake very, very late for the first chicane. And look how Benjamin Ricci in the background has made a 2-car battle into a 3-car battle. I do sense a couple more corners from now and maybe Simon Burke will get just far enough ahead to mean there is no tow to the car he's just passed, which is Philippe Pret's Maserati. Yeah, and just to reiterate, after the collision that caused Klaus Angerhofer to have a drive-through penalty, Jan Krabbeck had pulled to the side of the circuit and parked, and he really pulled up very soon after that clash at the first chicane, and he certainly was not the guilty party. And of course, by dint of having that drive-through penalty, Klaus Angerhofer was last anyhow at the time of his accident, but it was a 4 or 5 car pack. He got ambitious. He's now had a drive-through penalty, so he's some distance behind Laura Kreihammer in the sister True Racing KTM. By the way, the gap between Reinhard Koffler leading the race and Carlo Tamborini coming down bit by bit, only a 1/10 of a second lost on that lap. But 4th to 6th place, we're looking at that battle. Simon Burke in the red and white KTM, just leaving the Ascari chicane, just starting to drop those cars behind, as I sensed he would, because Philippe Pret is dropping off his tail and is now beginning to be caught by Benjamin Ricci. And remember, Benjamin had a little off-track excursion early in the race, but he's really, really picked up the pace for a Codis ASP. He's the top Mercedes driver. There in second place, Carlo Tamborini. Now, a little bit further down the order, Jean-Luc Bobelic has got Klaus Angerhofer. Sorry, that's Laura Kreihammer closing on his tail. Down the start-finish straight, past the grandstands, really filling up nicely today in this autumnal sunshine. In fact, a lot of the fans sitting high up in the grandstand, get a bit of shade, but also a loftier view, because that's a brilliant run down to the first corner. And now you can see the KTM, number 17, Laura Kreihammer, right on the tail of the 87 Codis ASP Mercedes. Jean-Luc Bobelic hanging on. Can he stay there? Because certainly Gilles Vanelay would like to take over ahead of the KTM rather than behind when it comes to the pit stops. But again, as in yesterday's race, later in the day yesterday, we got these fantastic groups of cars running around the circuit, and it's certainly giving all the drivers some great racing. The only driver who's not having any great racing, except he's putting on a supreme performance, is our race leader. And certainly Reinhard Koffler has done a great job. He's probably going to push on as long as he can, and then dive in when the pit window's about to close. But he's 3 seconds clear. The last few laps have been a bit better for Reinhard Koffler leading the race. There he is, the green and black KTM. Car 812, very catchy race number. MZR Motorsports Centrum Reed entered car. Goes on for another lap. The gap to second place, the gap to Carlo Tamborini, the driver who had accelerated from 10th on the grid up to second in the order. Went out to 3, it'd been the story of coming down below 3 seconds and went up above 3 seconds. And the last lap, much better lap from the driver in the blue, white and yellow Maserati. Here it comes, down to 2.5 seconds. And the fastest lap of the race has been set by Carlo Tamborini. But Martin Koch ready to take over the 812 KTM Crossbow, championship leader, sitting on a very tidy points advantage. And right now, is it going to be good enough for his stint to be added to the stint that Reinhard Koffler is soon to complete? Resume more than racing. Again, drivers getting themselves sorted out. And the number 80 KTM Crossbow, brand new car, entered after yesterday's accident. So Thomas Anderson will be hoping for better luck in today's stint. Right, here we go. Simon Burke out of bottom of shot, the red and white KTM in 4th place. He's dropped Philippe Pret. There's Pret, but Pret's racing this race solo. then Benjamin Ricci, and some distance a little further back, Alexandre Leroy, not so fast today. He was very good and took pole for yesterday's race. He ran at the sharp end of the field. He came home in second place to win the AM class yesterday. But today, Philippe Pret, there he is, has the upper hand in that class. He's running 5th overall, leading the AM class. Here's 4th. Here's Simon Burke. And now we just had to change of positions because Benjamin Ricci, early in this lap, has just moved ahead of Philippe Pret. I sing the praises of Pret, and the move that's been coming for a while. Bear in mind that Benjamin Ricci had a bit of an off-track excursion and slowly chipped away at them and has caught the tail of this group. And just after Philippe Pret was past another lap or so, and Benjamin Ricci moved through as well. But it is very soon time to get to the chicane. Right, again, just moments ago, car 61, the car we're talking about, Benjamin Ricci cut the chicane, but that was a while enough ago, that first chicane. No punish appears to be coming his way. Haven't talked so much about Pierre Caffer, but he's still coming through in 3rd place. He's 5.5 seconds down on Carlo Tamborini, who holds down 2nd. Reinhard Koffler still leads the race. Here is the KTM in 4th place for Simon Burke. Benjamin Ricci right on his tail now. And behind him, Philippe Pret, who's just dropped back to 6th, but still leads the AM class. Pit window is now open. Who's going to pit early and who's going to wait for give their starting driver the longer stint? Again, it depends on your pairing. We've got Pro-Am pairings, and you keep your Pro in as long as you possibly can. Couple of cars in the pits. So that's Jean-Luc Bobelic, who's hopped out of the 87 Acodis ASP Mercedes, and Gilles Vannelet, long-time teammate, who will be taking over. And also in the pits is Klaus Angerhoff's car. That's the one that served the penalty early on, the drive-through penalty. And he'll be handing over to Sadi Sarmini. But our race leader, the 812 KTM, neat, tidy, fast. Is he being caught? Yes, maybe by a 1/10 of a second here or there, but he had that really good start, got away from pole position. His advantage was got to 3.5 towards 4 seconds, but having worked its way through the field, overtaking cautiously but as quickly as possible, Carlo Tamborini worked his way from 10th up to 2nd place. Race leader goes on to another lap. The gap last time was 2.5 seconds. Let's see what it will be this time. Is it going to go out or come down? Carlo Tamborini crosses the line. It's gone out by 0.4 of a second. So interesting, you can have these swings of quite large chunks of time, almost half a second gained. And it's interesting how many times when a driver knows they're about to come in and serve their pit stop and get out and hand over to a teammate, they just eke out a little bit more performance. So the pit window open, still open, and down to the 2nd chicane we go. In fact, very slightly up to the 2nd chicane. It's left and it's right and it's neat and it's tidy for the race-leading KTM Crossbow in the background. A bit more of a flamboyant exit run through the chicane from the Maserati with Carlo Tamborini. Likewise, he's trying to squeeze the life out of his rubber, trying to get the most performance of it, and then hand the car over to his teammate Leonardo Guarini. To keep the championship open, even if the 812 KTM wins, the chasing car needs to finish 5th or higher. That will keep it open to Barcelona, but you know what? They're not looking for keeping it open to Barcelona. They're trying to make sure they can take as many points, even get ahead in the remaining 25 minutes of this race to take victory. That way, they can close the gap. Engine problem hit this car yesterday. It'd been going very well for Philippe Chatelet. Today, he's the 2nd driver into the LP Racing Audi, and it's being pushed on very hard indeed by Pierre Caffer. There's Philippe Chatelet waiting for his turn, so it may be another lap or two until that number 18 Audi dives into the pit lane. Great big air scoop above its roof. Another lap going on the board for Reinhard Koffler. He's not blinking. The pit window remains open. Now, how many times have I seen races where drivers have not quite got around in time to enter the pit lane before it closes? But I think it's a clear concept today with that advantage of around 3 seconds. It's gone out to 3.3 seconds. The last few laps have been very good. And I'll tell you why. Reinhard Koffler, you know I said about trying to raise the pace before your pit stop. He just set the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 45.7 seconds. And that is why he gained the best part of 0.3 of a second over the chasing Carlo Tamborini Maserati. And in fact, Pierre Caffer's just set his best lap of the race thus far. So he's falling away little by little from Carlo Tamborini, but going as fast as that Audi can possibly go. So it seems out of the 2nd chicane, leading the race, fastest lap of the race last time around for this driver, the Austrian racer, Reinhard Koffler. Now, this is one of the unusual ones. This is the driver getting out and looking around for a co-driver and realising, hold on, I said I was going to do this solo. This is Alexandre Leroy. He started yesterday on pole. He won the AM class by coming home in second. So he's got out, moved his muscles around a bit, had a swig of a drink, and he's climbing on board. You'll see the same performance from Philippe Pret when he dives into the pits. In fact, he's in the pits as well, doing precisely the same job from his Maserati. That's number 2. This is number 24. And there is Philippe now back on board, being strapped in. So the LP Racing crew, Luca Piri's crew, looking busy down in the pit lane. It's a bit like getting off a long-haul flight. It's actually not bad having a break. Get up, then you cram yourself back in for the remaining distance to fly your way home. And likewise, even if it's a 50-minute race, it's still a little nicer to get up and shake your muscles around. But Reinhard Koffler continues. He's deciding he's having the lion's share of this race. We'll hand over probably at the end of this lap to his teammate Martin Koch. First in the championship, leads second in the championship on the circuit here today at Monza. Carlo Tamborini in the background in the blue, white and yellow Maserati, losing a few more tenths of a second. He's only 3 seconds in arrears, chasing around in second place. So these little fractions of a second could just ensure victory for the number 812 KTM Crossbow. Now, right the way down the order, we've got battles. We've got Laura Kryhammer tucked in behind Pascal Gibbon, KTM behind Mercedes. But these are cars that will be in next time round. There's Alexandre Leroy, the number 24 Maserati, going back out to the track for TFT Racing. Accelerating, staying between the white lines, now coming into the blend zone and will stay with the white line to his left-hand side, left-hand flank, and now he can move across the track to take the wider sweep into the first chicane. Fortunately for him, as he goes back out, nobody immediately around him. And in the background, Alexandre Leroy, the other driver racing solo, brings out the number 24 TFT Racing Maserati. A little more cautious for him, didn't quite swing into the first chicane with as much confidence as Philippe Pret did, but then they'll settle down. Fastest driver on the track, the race leader. His best lap, 1 minute 45.7 seconds. Carlo Tamburini's best lap, 1 minute 45.9. That's why they're first and second. And Simon Birch has got the third fastest lap. He's the one who moved from 12th in his KTM Crossbow up to 4th. He's 5 and a bit seconds down on Pierre Caffer. And now our race leader dives in. I predicted that would be the case. And from second place, Carlo Tamburini dives into the pits as well. And Pierre Caffer likewise, 1 further lap, and they'd have been the wrong side of the pit window, being slammed in their faces. And that would lead to penalties. And equally from 4th place, Simon Berg comes in the background in that number 80 Resoon More Than Racing KTM. So it's 2 KTMs, a Maserati and an Audi filling those top 4 positions. They dive in the pits. And Benjamin Ricci, the top Mercedes racer, comes in from 5th place. So Carlo Tamburini out. He's not driving solo because he's got a teammate who's hopping on board. That's Leonardo Guarini. And likewise, Martin Koch has inserted himself into that number 12 KTM Crossbow. And of course, when you've got a 2-driver race, it's about the balance of your 2 drivers. One may be quicker than the other, but if the margin is very little, then you're standing in good stead. And let's see what Martin Koch can do. He did a good job in the opening stage of the race yesterday, but he was overtaken by 3 of the Maserati crews. Will that happen again today? Let's see. And remember, as he climbs on board, he suffered from a degree of leg cramp yesterday, leg pain, and certainly didn't look too handy when he got out of the car. He says it's hopefully behind him, but hopefully is a word that may prove it is not. We'll see. Right. Every one of the drivers has come in. The pit window is still open, but in a matter of seconds, it will be closing. And the 812 Maserati should be back out on the track. That's from MZR Motorsport Centrum, and they've done a fantastic job through the season. But of those drivers who have made their pit stop and have returned, this is Philippe Pret. He's doing the race solo, running in the AM class. He was looking neat and tidy in that. There's a minimum pit stop time, and with more of a blink of an eye rather than the raising of a lollipop, the MZR crew send their car back into the lead of the race, and just waiting for the challenging number 1 Maserati to follow it out. Remember, the gap between them was about 3.5 seconds before the pit stops. And it looks as though it's very much going to be a similar margin this time around. Be interesting to see, by pitting a lap earlier, where precisely some of the rivals are going to fit into the queue. You don't expect any particular place changes between them, but 8-12, the KTM back into the lead of the race. Reinhold Koffler handing it over to fellow championship leader Martin Koch. Fabulous sweep of the old bank circuit just on the left-hand side of the screen there. Awesome. Would love to have seen the cars race around there. Into the first chicane they go and out. So those who finish their pit stops, getting heat into their Pirelli rubber and pressing on. For those who are going to go out after the pit stop, it's a case of just remembering you've got to wait a moment to get the heat in your tyres. That's the job of this driver, Hubert Trunkenpolz. Austrian driver waiting for the signal. The clamshell door closed above his head, the lid. And Martin Koch settling into the lead of the race in the 8-12 KTM. In the background of the shot, maybe about 3.5, 4 seconds behind, we ought to be seeing Leonardo Guarini, who's running that #1 Maserati. It should be in second place, waiting for the next timing interval, and we'll just spot if the gap went out or closed down. And of course, you get success penalty, extra long pit stops if you get a good result in one race, and that wouldn't have hampered the 8-12 crew, so they should have stretched their advantage over the #1. Because the 8-12 crew did not come away with a handful of points yesterday, and so that should make the challenge rather easier for Martin Koch. Let's have a look at the gap between them. Actually, it looks fairly much the same. Now, are we going to have a place changes between a couple of the Mercedes? Christophe Bouret in 53 and Gilles Vannelet in 87. Again, that fantastic shot, the low-down shot as they go into the dip under the bridge. They've got Alexandre Leroy behind them, but Vannelet now ahead of Bouret. There's Bouret in 53. They're being caught by the Maserati. You can just see that in the background of the shot. Alexandre Leroy, the second driver who's running the race solo. That's his target for the remaining, well, what have we got left on the clock? 17 minutes in this race. And the pace he's shown thus far at Monza, he should manage to do that. And he described yesterday as, I think, the best day of his life. Maybe he's talking about his racing life, but, you know, really loving being here at Monza. Yeah, he's got plenty of speed out of Parabolica. So, drivers now settling into the second half of the race. The car that's running last is Sadi Sarmini in 11th place. We've lost Jan Krabek's 89 KTM Crossbow, and Sarmini's car, nothing to do with Sadi, is the one that took Jan Krabek out of the race with a misjudgment down into the first chicane. That had to serve a drive-through penalty. That is why that is at the back of the pack. Christophe Bouret still holding down 8th place. Alexandre Leroy finished second yesterday, driving solo again. He is going to be picking his way further forward. Right, I said I was going to tell you the gap between first and second, between Martin Koch and Leonardo Guarini. Well, it's 6.5 seconds. Just double checking. It's still saying on the timing screens that we've got Reinhard Koffler aboard. I saw a driver getting back in, but maybe if he's opted to drive the second stint of the race, they'd have had to nominate before the race, but that was... Okay, definite change I'm hearing, because you could be slightly fooled because you get a driver getting out and getting in. I saw someone getting in, I didn't check the helmet, but it's definitely Martin Koch on board, so I'm being told. Right, the gap first to second, 5.9 seconds. Is that going to go up or down? Well, last time around, it was coming down because Guarini faster than Koch at the moment. But look, the clock's ticking fast, just over a quarter of an hour remaining. Can Koffler, the championship leader, stay in that position, then eke out more of an advantage to take to the 2 races at Barcelona in the middle of October? Right, here's the hunter and the hunted. The hunter is Alexandre Leroy. He's in the yellow-nosed Maserati. He's taken the wide line down to the first corner, but Christophe Bouret, plenty of grunt from his GT2 Mercedes-AMG. Puff of brake smoke there. It's actually brake dust coming off the pads as they brake heavily for the first chicane. Leroy, for now, has to stay behind. They're both in the AM class. 3rd and 4th positions there. And as Bouret's fighting, that's allowing Gilles Vannelet, who passed him just after the driver changes, to disappear out of shot. They sweep through the Curva Grande. There is Vannelet braking heavily down into the second chicane. Left, then right. But if you get a messy exit, you suffer through the first of the Lesmos. Neat and tidy for all 3 drivers just there. Yeah, just seeing absolute confirmation that is Martin Koch. ID issues, driver ID issues, often happens in racing cars. Things get knocked, things get vibrated. Reinhard Koffler probably having a coffee in the pits. He started from pole, did a fantastic job, but he'll be watching the screens, you can be sure of that, for the next quarter of an hour or so through to the end of the race. Can they add another victory to their pile? And thus far, started the season with a run of second places before the wins came, but a good consistent scoring for the MZR Motorsport Centrum crew. Philippe Pret running solo, leading the AM class by 7 seconds from Gilles Vannelet, but Vannelet is encroaching, approaching, and just chipping away. Not much of a difference between them. Philippe Pret just looking where he can make gains, and he's about to pass Thomas Anderson, so he's had a better run down the straight. Can they both get the braking done? Okay, that's a change for 5th position. And Thomas Anderson, brand new car today, he was clattered out of the race at the first chicane last time. Oh, more overtaking. This time it's Alexandre Leroy who's done overtaking, but unfortunately his nose of his Maserati snapped to the left and clattered into the wing there of Christophe Bourret. He just got his nose in front, and that is not going to go any further. That is damage. Can Bourret hook it together and get going again? He had a little blow to the driver's door. He spins it around. He'll regain the position. His car looks so it's in one piece, but unfortunately from Alexandre Leroy, just braking too heavily. His Maserati snapped to the left, and he's joining. That's where Jan Krabek's broken car, after his collision at the chicane, has been parked, and hopefully that Maserati can be pulled back into that gap in the wall, and we can continue without any safety zones, slow zones, whatever you want, safety cars. We don't want any of those. Right, just looking at the gap between first and second while we look at Alexandre Leroy's broken, light collision, but enough to damage his car to keep him out of the race, one feels. Gap between first and second, by the way, is down to 5.6 seconds. It's coming down, but only by a fraction. I think we've got enough for Martin Koch to lead this race. He's top of the timing screens. So let's have a look. The high up shot, and already the nose of the Maserati, Leroy's car, has snapped to the left. He was down the inside. Looks like the move was done, but Christophe Bourret was waiting to turn in, and then suddenly given a thump. Unusual to see a car snap away like that. Bourret, absolutely the innocent party. And I think all you could say was Alexandre Leroy was just very, very keen to get the overtaking manoeuvre done, but unfortunately just his car unsettled down into the first chicane, and round they went. But at least Bourret's been able to continue on the track. Lost a bit of time, lost a bit of place, but right, first to second, 5.7 seconds. This is a car in second place. It's the chasing Leonardo Guarini. The car started in the hands of his teammate Carlo Tamborini, down in 10th place. There was caution that was overtaking it, worked its way up to second place by the time it came to the pit stops, just after the middle point in the race. Starting drivers stayed on board as long as they possibly could. But Martin Koch having taken over the wheel of the 812 KTM Crossbow. Reinhard Koffler did the hard yards early in the race. Leonardo Guarini has been trying his best to hunt him down, but if you're only gaining a tenth of a second here, tenth of a second there, that's not going to be enough, surely, because the clock is counting down to 10 3/4 minutes in this race. But will there be a car that delays the race-leading KTM Crossbow? Well, we've got to wait and see. You hope there won't be, but what you're hoping is that this Maserati can get a little bit closer. I think we've almost plateaued, though. Let's see, 5.7 seconds was the margin between first and second last time. After 21 laps, let's find out what it's going to be. Is it going to go up or is it going to go down? And just waiting for the Maserati to come through. It's gone down, 4.9 seconds. So that was a better lap by actually 0.8 of a second. Okay, if we can work with those increments, still think we're going to run out of time. But all you need is a slight delay for Martin Koch and Leonardo Guarini. Can he sense victory? I think it's a very, very big ask, but all you can do is keep on chasing, and the closer you get, the more frequently you can see the car you're chasing. Because sometimes around some circuits, at certain points of the lap at Monza, you cannot see your rival. When you get to the straights, you can see them, but around the twisty parts, certainly up through the Lesmos, you probably cannot. Here's our AM class leader, Philippe Pret, driving solo, driving in 5th place. And he knows the other solo driver, also in the AM class, Alexandre Leroy, is out of the race. After that collision going down into the first chicane. Coming here, Philippe Pret was second in the championship when we arrived at Monza. Bubalik and Vanderlei leading for Codis ASP, very tight. They only had a 5-point advantage. Philippe Pret was second and Alexandre Leroy third. But Alexandre, though he had a good result yesterday, he's drawing a 0 today. So that will will hinder his championship push. For Philippe Pret with the APM Monaco livery, he has now decided, right, I was passed by Benjamin Ricci, I've got Mauro Ricci in the car in front. Can I catch, can I pass? That's his ambition for the remainder of this race. But really taking chunks out of him time-wise. So here's Mauro Ricci. He's got to hang on. So these next 8 3/4 minutes could be long ones for him, but certainly the motion last time around, the difference in lap speed was 1.5 seconds between the pair of them. So Mauro Ricci actually is being caught very, very quickly indeed. Well, it's going to be sooner rather than later. It's not a question of if, but when. Catching the toe, not even needing the toe. Better speed out of the parabolic. Now he's opting for the toe. Yeah, a little bit more help. Over the start-finish line they go, down to the first corner. Wait for the Maserati to burst. You've got to go up the inside here. And Mauro Ricci already ducking the nose down into Mercedes, braking as late as he can, turning in. Oh, is this going to lead to well, he's resisting for now. Who's going to get the better exit? Well, it's Philippe Pret. The classic case, if you brake a little bit late in defence going into the first chicane at Monza, you're invariably going to have a poor exit from that first chicane, and the car that gets the power down the sooner out of there will sweep around the outside. It's happened over the years, time after time, all the way through Biasoni, and that is why Philippe Pret has gone back into that position. He challenged for 5th position going into the first chicane, didn't happen, but as soon as he got onto the exit, he saw that Mauro Ricci was going to be a little bit loose, couldn't get the power down on the outside of the exit, and has pulled clear. Race leader, second place in the same shot, the KTM of Martin Koch, championship leader, the championship chaser, Leonardo Guarini. Remember that car, now second, started in 10th place in this GT2 European Series penultimate round, the second race of 2 here at Monza. They don't want traffic, they don't want delay. Now we're about to see some more place changing because Thomas Anderson's got Gilles Vanderlei right on his tail. They're fighting over 6th place. Anderson hasn't been able to match the pace of his young teammate Simon Berg. No disgrace in that. Berg very much an up-and-coming driver. But the second Dane here, Thomas Anderson, well, he may not be able to hang on to that position because Gilles Vanderlei, doing that old light flashing trick, is right on his tail. Gilles second in the AM class and pressing on big time. He's just got to choose his moment. He's got enough time to make that move. But almost everybody tries to make it down into the first chicane. The move has been absolutely signalled, and Thomas Anderson not resisting. He's also wary of the fact that he was given a push, a shove and a clatter yesterday down into this very point on the circuit, which took him out of the race. A brand new car was used, all their livery put on it, and the Danish pair back to fight today. But I think discretion was the better part of valour there. First to second was 4.7 seconds, 0.3 gained. Leonardo Guarini is getting closer and closer. This little battle low with Thomas Anderson having lost 6th place to Gilles Vanderlei. Vanderlei looking neat and tidy as he has over the years, the Codis ASP Mercedes. But Thomas Anderson, having been passed, is sort of hanging in there. Maybe he'll get a chance to fight back. But here is our race leader. Lights are flashing, does not want to be delayed because definitely the Maserati of Leonardo Guarini, there it is, car number 1 is catching Martin Koch. 4.4 seconds between them. On the start line, early part of the lap, a few thousandths of a second gained by Leonardo Guarini, waiting to see what the margin is when he crosses the line. 4 seconds. Absolutely flat. So the gap is coming down, but look, the clock's moving faster than that. We've only got time for, I would suggest, the final 3 laps of the race. And as hard as Guarini is pushing, I don't think a 5th win in this year's GT2 European Series will come their way, but not for want of trying. Would it have been different if the car had started in the first 2 rows rather than the outside of row 5? Undoubtedly it would, but Guarini, well, he's just got to keep on pushing. There could be a little bit of gravel on track somewhere that might upset Martin Koch or him. you never know, but he's relying on sort of outside forces here. He's doing all he can, but he's going to need a helping hand in that Maserati to see if it can catch. And then that's quite another thing, past the race-leading KTM. Leading the AM class, 4th overall, Philippe Pret has done a fantastic job. He's had a fair few battles in this race, notably with the number 61 Ritchie family Mercedes, but he lost ground to Benjamin, but he's got past Maro. There's Maro in the background. Maro running in 6th overall. In fact, he's going to have to work quite hard to hang on because Gilles Vannelet in another Mercedes not too far back. Looks good, sounds great. Really lovely racing engine in that Maserati GT2. There, proper racing engine sound. Out of the Lesmos, down under the old circuit, going into the little drop, and some days very dark under the flyover, then bursting back into what is almost sunshine here at Monza. Early September, air temperature just over 20 degrees, track temperature rising to 31, but they've taken the best out of their Pirelli racing rubber, and but still fast laps are coming in at this late stage in the race. Oh, look at that battle behind Philippe Pret. Then Mauro Ricci has suddenly got company. I sensed Gilles Vannelet was closing in. Those two Mercedes very, very close indeed, because recently Vannelet has passed the KTM of Thomas Anderson up into 6th place, but just look at that. Mauro Ricci having to try his very best to hang on to position there, but Gilles Vannelet's coming through. They're both run by Codis ASP, so giving each other space, but certainly Gilles Vannelet had a very, very good run into and through and out of the Parabol. Thomas Anderson follows them through and out of the chicane, but we're counting down to the end of the race now. 2 minutes on the clock. Martin Koch leading this race by 3.6 seconds. It's come down about 2.5, maybe 3 seconds since the driver changes, but I think he's still set fair to take victory. But great to see this little Mercedes battle. It does look as though it's been sorted out with Gilles Vannelet right at the start of this lap, pulling his way past Mauro Ricci to move up into 5th place overall. But here, 1st and 2nd, coming down the back straight to the Parabolica. Martin Koch turning in. Long corner, halfway round, you're now starting to accelerate through the Parabolica, building the momentum as you sweep round onto the start-finish straight. Last time around, it was 3.6 seconds between 1st and 2nd. Doesn't look as though it's changed an enormous amount, but let's see if the clock is going to tell us a different story. Waiting for that interval. 3.2 seconds, so bit by bit, 1/3 of a second here, 4/10 there. A really impressive run from Leonardo Guarini, but I'm sure Martin Koch has got enough in the bag, because this is the start of the final lap. Is the traffic up ahead that can give a little glimmer of hope for the number 1 Maserati, or has our race-leading KTM got this one under control? I think he's got enough in hand. I don't think there are any cars that are slower, that are particularly close in front. And for the MZR Motorcentrum Reed entry, the KTM Crossbow came away not with victory, didn't get many points at all yesterday, ending up down in 8th place. However, today is a different story. Led away from pole in the hands of Reinhard Koffler. The last few laps before the pit stop, he gained a bit of an advantage over Carlo Tamburini's car, but it was also extra time in the pits for Tamburini's car. It's been handed over to Guarini, and Guarini has chased and chased, but he knows he goes down the dip and then up the little rise here. The KTM Crossbow is not close enough to be tackled. The gap is now down to 2.6 seconds, so it's not for want of trying from Leonardo Guarini, but Martin Koch looking in his mirrors. Yes, the Maserati's going faster. Oh dear, now someone's had a moment there. Is Philippe Pret. He's got a massive puncture. These are the things that can cause problems. The bodywork's come off the car. The left rear tyre is exploded. It's taken the bodywork with him. That was the AM class leader, 4th overall. Luckily for the race leader, however, he was in front of that, so he didn't pick up any of the debris. And here comes Martin Koch. Yesterday wasn't the greatest result, didn't get many points. Today, here's victory. The gap is closing. The checkered flag is waved. Victory for the KTM, car number 812, and the gap at the end to Leonardo Guarini. He chased and he chased, 2.6 seconds back. Well, definitely the championship battle stays open to the final round. So a great run. Philippe Chatelet is going to come home in 3rd place, and that means that Car number 87, the Mercedes, is going to go up to fourth. That's Gilles Vannelet. Oh, you really have to feel for Philippe Pret, holding down that position, and it didn't come to him. Thought the AM victory was in the bag, not his chance. So Philippe Châtelet takes the Audi number 18 through to third place. In the background, you can see Gilles Vannelet crossing the line in fourth, Mauro Ricci in fifth, and all along down the timing screens, that means Thomas Anderson will come home sixth in his crossbow, but poor Philippe Pret did not get to the finish. How much warning did he have before that tyre went? But for Reinhard Koffler, looking happy. Yes, well done, thumbs up to him. And it's just interesting to see if Philippe Pret can get the whole way back. You can see some debris in the track as the cars enter the second chicane. So in fact, that suggests the tyre explosion happened when he was running around Curva Grande. It was before the drivers got to the chicane. More of the debris on the track on the exit of the chicane. Isn't that fortunate that it happened at a point where none of the other front-running drivers are going to be interrupted, because that debris in the track could so easily lead to a puncture. First there was the blowout, and then the bodywork was ripped apart by the flailing tyre carcass there. Didn't interrupt the front runners, but for Philippe Pret, that would have been a moment in which his heart was in his mouth, because going around the Curva Grande, it's a place of high speed and a lot of corner loading. And he's made it to the finish. There his car comes in snaking around, so he gets the point for finishing in 9th place, but you feel he deserved so much more. And Hubert Trunkenpolz completing the finishers in 10th, last of the finishers. We lost Alexandre Leroy down at the first chicane, and earlier in the first chicane we also lost Jan Krabek. So that could have really changed the course of the race. Jan and Hubert Trunkenpolz only a lap down because that car had to serve a drive-through penalty, don't forget. Oh no, sorry, that was the sister car of Sadie Salmini. But today belonged to the 812 KTM crew of Reinhard Koffler, who kicked off the race, Martin Koch, who brought it home in the lead. Eventually 2.6 seconds the good. And let's take a look at the final results. There it is. 2.625 seconds was the margin of advantage for the number 812 KTM Crossbow from the Motorsports Centrum Reed. Second place, started 10th on the grid. Carlo Tamborini put on a charge, and Leonardo Guarini kept on chasing in their Maserati. The championship title race is still open. Philippe Châtelet and Pierre Café, no finish yesterday, but they came home third today. And then, with a gift right towards the end of the race, Jean-Luc Bobelic started. Gilles Vannelet brought their car up into 4th place. Mauro Ricci and Benjamin Ricci take 5th, but we did lose Philippe Pret. He looks as though he's heading for a great position to win the AM class, but today that went to Bobelic and Vannelet in 4th place. But at least by limping home, Philippe Pret takes the point for 9th. His car, minus some of its bodywork and certainly missing one of its tyres. So action from start to finish, but our championship leaders, 812, the MZR Reed crew, have stretched their advantage, and that is why they're so happy. So lights are flashing. Reinhard Koffler, he's awaiting, and alongside Pierre Caffer saying, well, tell me all about it. But certainly the KTM, yesterday it got overtaken, but today it stretched clear at the start, stayed there, and the battle was fantastic all the way through to the finish, but a wonderful job there. Maximum points popped into the bag. Plenty to talk about, of course, the two classes. And just to reiterate, car 87 won the AM class in 4th place overall. Second in class was Christophe Bouret, teammate, also a Codis ASP. And Sadie Salmini, even with that drive-through penalty, his car, the number 16 KTM, came home 3rd in AM. But the first and second cars park up. Reinhard Koffler lifts that clamshell roof and gets to greet Martin Koch, who will get out. And yesterday they didn't grab lots of points, but today they most certainly did. Yeah, give me a hand. Job well done. And you just wonder, in a race like this, when someone has a blowout, as poor Philippe Pret did, you know, that could have really affected the race. But fortunately, it was just as they were going onto their final, you know, it was all under control. They were around the final lap. They were ahead of that. But today, there was a bit of leg pain yesterday for Martin Koch. Today, he's standing tall as a race winner, greeted by Reinhard Koffler. Yep, very, very well done for the Motorsports Centrum Reed crew. Even counting up how many points they've got in the championship. That's how drivers multitask today. And car 87, that was the AM class winner. That's from a Codis ASP. 4th place overall, so a very good run for the crew there. Jean-Luc Bobelic, who started, Gilles Vanelay, who brought it home. But let's go down and have an interview with the 812 crew. There are race winners. Their names are Reinhard Koffler, who started, and Martin Koch, who brought it home.
Ronnie, that smile says absolutely everything. Martin, you as well. Congratulations. Everything you wanted just happened.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday we talked that Sunday could be our great day, and yeah, Martin did a stunning job after his small injury. Yesterday morning, he did a really great job. The car was such a great drivable. The fight with these guys all were great fun. I mean, Carlo did also a great job in the first stint. He arrived immediately behind me, but thanks to KTM, MZR, all the guys who are supporting us, to win in Monza is very special for me.
Absolutely, it must be. Martin, you'll be relieved to go get a rest after this, I imagine, though.
Yeah, I do. This was an incredible race, really. I mean, like, I go emotional here. It's like winning in Monza. It's like, wow, one of my childhood dreams, right? It's like, it's amazing. And I would like to say thanks to KTM for having given us this cool car and the team preparing it with Reini. Very good drive. And also say thanks to the guys in the hospital yesterday in the medical center. They kind of tried to fix my leg. Still hurts like hell, but racing is still possible, so winning also. So.
That's the winning attitude. I love it. Congratulations. You can go and celebrate.
Thank you.
You can only celebrate when Gemma gives you permission, but they really worked so hard for that. And, you know, to have an issue that makes your legs rather painful when you've got such heavy braking required here and such movement around inside the car. But that 812 KTM Crossbow did not put a wheel wrong today. So the car, the team, the sponsors will be delighted with that one. And there is something very, very special about winning at Monza, and it's great to hear the drivers reflecting that. Well, let's go back down and hear from Gemma with another interview.
Gentlemen, congratulations. Again, the smiles say absolutely everything. Did you enjoy that?
Oh yeah, it's a good things because since the start of weekend it was very, very hard with my accident after qualifying and work around the car. The team do a very, very good job, but yesterday when we start we have the problem of ABS and we lose many places during the race, and today he was fantastic. Jean-Luc was very, very, very strong for the first sting, and the car was fantastic. Thank you.
Well, they do say sometimes it's about luck as well as talent. I think luck prevailed a little bit today, but all the same,
I think,
the result means everything, and that's what counts.
I think we are some lucky. But we make a solid job, strong job.
A strong pair and a very strong team. Well done to you.
Thank you.
The old men are very strong.
And you can enjoy your celebrations. Well done.
Thank you.
So that was Gilles Vanelay for Codis ASP and Jean-Luc Bobelic. The old men are very strong. Didn't drive like old men, and they'd have loved every second because they had a chase there as well, and that's always great excitement. Overtaking cars here at Monza, plotting your moves like a very clever chess match, and they enjoyed it. And again, bouncing back from problems, mechanical problems and things that put you on the back foot, but today they absolutely hooked it up and really did a great job. 4th place overall, taking victory in the AM class. They'll be delighted. You do have to also feel they had caught and passed Philippe Pret, but then he had that massive blowout left rear tyre going. Did a good job to wrestle that car home, eventually to 9th place overall. Busy pit lane here at Monza. Packed weekend in this SRO race meeting. GT2s, GT4s, GT3s, all coming out to play. McLaren Trophy also here as well. So a lot of drivers are looking across all the other support races as well to sense what they'd want to do next. But what they all want to do is get up on that podium that sits high above the pit lane. Most remarkable podium here at Monza. Their crews standing around their cars, the winning cars, the class-winning cars that are sitting beneath them. Just waiting for their moment in the sun, and it almost is sunshine here. It's a bright morning, and let's take a look back at what happened. Starting from pole position, it was a great start from Reinhard Koffler, but in behind, nice and neat and tidy with the first 2, 3, 4 positions. In behind them, a little more rough and tumble, but certainly brilliant start from Reinhard Koffler. Chased at first by Pierre Capper, and a little moment for Benjamin Ricci where he had to take to the escape rope. You see it's a long way round there, and then rejoined the circuit, and the moves kept on coming. The drivers making the move, most notably the car that started in 10th place, Carlo Tamborini. You can see his white, blue and yellow Maserati picking off places, and then unfortunately KTM on KTM left poor Jan Krabbeck with nowhere to go. Philippe Pret braking as late as he possibly could there, trying to resist Simon Berg, but there was no stopping the KTM. And then a little mishap there from Alexandre Leroy, and contact again down into that first chicane, and his car came off the worst. And then the Ritchie family Mercedes running wide, but today belonged to the KTM crew, the 812 crew. They took victory, they lead the championship, they stretch their advantage, they'll take it to Barcelona. So waiting for the drivers to go up onto the podium. Always takes a while to corral drivers when they want to talk to everyone else. It's congratulating them on overall victory, class victory, but we will get them up onto the podium. And I think for the Motorsport Reed Centrum crew, it was an epic day today, from driver injury and driver discomfort to outright victory in the race, and that has stretched their points advantage. It closed a little bit yesterday with Tamborini and Guarini getting victory in the first of the two races here at Monza, but it's opened out again today. But certainly a fantastic charge from 10th place for Carlo Tamborini, who kicked it off, who made the way all the way up to second, and then Guarini, who got closer and closer in the closing laps of the race, but just couldn't quite eke victory here. He would have loved the extra points for victory, but they still have the championship open when they head to Barcelona in the middle of October for the final rounds of the 2024 series. And as they wait for their podium ceremony to begin, down on the grid also people moving out into position. The GT4 European Series will be next to go. So this just echoes modern motor racing. You come to the Temple of Speed here at Monza, a mere 102 years old, as great now as it was when it was opened, and you have as many crews as possible wanting to come and race here, many championships. So the GT4 cars are now feeding their way into the pit lane. Packed grid of cars, 50 cars about to compete in that, and their pit crews are already out on the start-finish straight, ready to line them up while we wait for the podium for the GT2 European Series to swing into action. The first few drivers coming up. And this is the Pro-Am podium. This is Pierre Caffer and Philippe Châtelet, third place today. It ran second early in the race in the hands of Pierre Caffer, but was hunted down and passed by this crew, Carlo Tamborini and Leonardo Guarini. And there's Leonardo looking slightly deflated. He chased and he chased, but just couldn't quite catch up with the crew. We're going to see sweeping on. Yeah, here they come, the winners. Martin Koch, you can tell it, he's the one who's got the leg injury, hopping his way up. He made it work long enough to achieve an ambition to win at Monza. And Reinhard Koffler, handshakes, smiles all round. They love racing here at Monza, and you can see why. And to get up on this podium, that's special. So the national anthem of Austria for the race-winning team, and the trophies presented by Marco Suana there. Everyone is special. Marco Suana from Pirelli, the team manager of the MZR team, smiling on the left-hand side of the podium. They raced, they chased, but came up in second place today. Leonardo Guarini and Carlo Tamborini. But the winners' trophies will be the next ones out, and we know who those will be going to. They'll be going to Martin Koch, who finished the job started by Reinhard Koffler. The winners' trophies here at Monza, the GT2 European Series. They worked hard for that. They're the championship leaders, but the title is not yet in the bag. Time for champagne for them, and they'll then think about what happens next when they go to Barcelona for the final round in the middle of October. But right now, joy for the MZR crew on the top step. Not a driver can see there, a face full of fizz. So Reinhard Koffler and Martin Koch leading by 43 points. They eked their advantage out with victory today over Leonardo Guarini and Carlo Tamborini. Tom, Thomas Addison and Simon Burke didn't get the results they were looking for. They're holding down a firm third place in the championship, but this is one for the mathematicians to work out the permutations heading to Barcelona. But with their noses properly in front, it really is a title race for Reinhard Koffler and Martin Koch to lose. But see what Guarini and Tamborini can do as they try and hunt them down. Drivers reassemble for the photographs, eyes still stinging from that initial spray of bubbly. Already noise as the next race is getting its cars out onto the track. Busy here at Monza. And for the GT2 European Series, you can see why this is a track so many drivers like to race on. Not only does it have all the history, it's a real challenge. The 3 chicanes offer places where the passing can be made, but you've got to get your moves right. We saw a few cars getting it slightly wrong, but that is life, that is Monza. And for the winners, they want to stay up on that top step as long as possible. I'm sure still be the AM class podium coming up shortly as well. So that's it from the GT2 European Series. They've got it all to play for. They provided a fantastic show here at Monza. Make sure you join us for the weekend of 12th and 13th of October for Barcelona for the finale.